In this rear control arm, you can see how this is. Come over this way. See how that arm is going? The bushing.
Whoa.
Watch it moving in and out. How many miles on this car? Anybody look and see?
30.
30,000 miles.
That's about how long they last.
Yeah. And you can look up here and see where this one's been rubbing. See the metal and metal touching the arm?
Yeah.
In there, it's been rubbing in and out.
That one's pretty tight, actually.
Yeah, well that rear one, when it goes, it's just pushing up against this one here.
This one's a camber. That does your castle.
Yeah, but look up here.
So that's accounting for some of the shimmying when you're driving.
Oh,
yeah, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
That would explain that.
Yeah.
When you apply the brakes, it's going to kind of give you a...
Uh-huh.
I was telling Pete, he's usually pretty good at checking the bearing, doing the thing. These, you got to push that wheel back and forth like that.
This one's...
Yeah.
You can see it's loose.
Just
but
a
it's
little
not
bit, right. And he's missing his shield under here. There's supposed to be a shield. Is that it?
Yeah, he took it off.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there was a piece up there that broke, and it says zip tied now, so that it wouldn't hit the wheel at higher speeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Good old zip ties.
Yeah.
They come in handy,
Yeah,
don't
they
they?
sure do. I think he hasn't gotten a replacement piece for this, which is why he put the shield back on.
So say your thoughts out loud, John.
Well, what I'm looking for is just brake wear. The rotor's got a little bit of ridge in it, but it's not bad. Ball joints are common on these because they're too small. They're really underrated for this car. They always have problems with ball joints. This is a 2001. Okay. This does have, which should be checked by now. It's the mileage that's on it. Up in the front here is the accumulator, and this accumulator right here should be checked because it's kind of like the old cars with the braking system. You pump on the brake pedal and you deplete the pressure. Kind of a quick and dirty way to check it is see how many pumps you get before the accumulator exhausts itself. So that's how you check the fluid in the power steering reservoir. So I think that would be something I would want to be looking at right now because that can create problems. It's a damping system too. It dampens the steering vibration. So also if the accumulator it works off the power steering and the leveling system. So it absorbs vibration on the side of this engine. If you look up here, normally this line right here, you'll see it looks like it goes nowhere. It just stops. Okay, that's also for vibration. See the end there? It's got nothing to it. It just stops right there. That's always had problems with it would leak, but they're there for harmonic vibration. So it's just a tuning device. Yeah, exactly.
Pipe back there?
Right up here on the side of the engine. See, it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I remember the pipe.
Yeah.
Is that what that's for?
Yep.
I was wondering what the heck that
That's
was.
what it's for.
I took it off wondering, why did you do that?
Yeah, exactly right. Well, it's there for a reason. I thought one time too I'd take it off and remove it, but you know what?
Actually, you know what I thought it was? I thought maybe the Giraffe with the V12 had something, and they made one pipe,
Right.
capped it off.
Yeah. So, good and neat up on the top here. If you look, you can see the coil spring right on the bottom. It's starting to come apart. The isolator cone. See how it's totally busted up there?
This thing that's shredded, I see.
Yeah, it's all coming apart. Yeah, that's where the spring sits on top of. And you might want to check the control arm ball joints. They're really, see at the very top of the ball joint up there? They're notorious for going. And you can see the wear. So that's something you might want to look into on the arm here, right at the end of that ball joint.
The ball joint's toward the tire or toward this one I'm pointing to here or
right
that?
at the control arm here, right at the end.
Right there.
Right up here.
Yeah, right there. See that? Where it's been rubbing?
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. I got that.
Got it. On the GTs and these special models, these have a lot of problems with making creaking noises in the morning when they're cold.
Yes, right.
So you always hear that creaking sound, and when you warm up, they go away, the noise. So it's always in the sway bars.
Sway bar links right
Yeah,
here.
these are sway. Got to be looked at a lot. A lot of times they creak up in here at the front where they rub. So they need a little bit of lubrication on those. They're called the morning groans.
I thought that was just me.
What's the best thing to use on that where we attack the rubber?
Yeah. Soap is good, or you could use stuff for your tire machine. Have you ever seen it used for beating tires?
Yeah.
Same thing for rubber, so it's not gonna hurt.
What you can do too is you can take them down because they're split bushings. You can take them down and take a piece of antifreeze jug and slit it the same width as that, wrap it around there, put it back on there, and that will keep it.
Like a
what it
nylon.
does it's a nylon bushing inside that, so that it'll keep it from
Like a door latch on a Ford.
Yeah.
Right, exactly, and it keep it from what it does is it rubs in that plastic until it rubs the plastic out. Then you won't have that problem.
Or you could do what you said. If you chrome that with that special
Yeah.
material,
Yeah.
that probably works
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it really makes it slick. And it's really about a 2 or 3 mil. Very, very. You don't notice it as far as calibration or clamping or anything. But it looks just like this here whenever you do the metal. But it's slick. I mean, it's hard to even hold it like I said, a spring in your hand.
Yes, sir.
Straight?
Yeah, it does. It's been backed up and probably hit. You know, it's one of the things, I guess, the plastic prevents, it glides over top of it. So I can see it's got a little kink in it. Been hit. So,
Is that
yeah.
not enough to be serious though?
No, it's nothing. But the,
It's not leaking.
Yeah.
Don't hit it again.
Right.
Efficiency. You have heat.
That's right.
Right.
That's exactly.
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
Like that, it just goes through.
yeah. We had a customer with
Yeah.
2000 last week in our shop. Came in and he says, I don't know, all of a sudden he says this car, when you drive it, it's vibrating like hell. And I drove the car and it was all in the steering wheel. It was going like this when it come down and really bad. So I checked, well, it felt like the motor was out of balance or something, had a torque motor and transmission or something. Well, what happened was the accumulator went totally flat. Had no gas in the oil, and that dampens the steering.
Oh yeah. So you don't have.
Yeah.
Oh crap.
And it was the first time I ran across that, but just so like I said, accumulators, as I say, check them out. They just go away and you don't realize it. But by pumping the brake pedal and see how many shots you got before it exhausts itself, it's a quick way. If you're for gauges and stuff on, a lot more detailed in here to hook gauges up than an old Spirit spur.
So you said to check if the accumulators are low, you pump the
One accumulator, you got right up over here, this ball, and this is full of nitrogen gas. And actually it's a damper for the system. So if it's full of fluid, it's hydrostatic locked. So it's not absorbing anything. It's solid, So seeing on the old mineral oil cars, you go down the highway and things like really, you feel it called porpoising, because the back end struts are hydrostatic locked. There's gas balls on the back of those.
Okay.
And they just gradually come up on you. You don't really feel it until somebody in the car, and you feel like you're in the car, you're doing this in the car, and you're going over bumps. And it's because the rear struts are locked up.
Oh, okay.
There's no more, the springs bounce, but the shock is totally locked up. And the car's a little jacked up. This is a 4-speed 4LADE transmission. It's a General Motors. It's using speed sensors to calculate, the shift points. It's all computer controlled. It's got a DAT memory. It works with the engine management system, so it determines, the shift points. This is a distributorless ignition. It's got a crank sensor here and a cam sensor on the top, and it has no distributor. On top of the engine, it's got 8 individual coils that control the firing of the spark plug, and it's in segments on the wheels. On this, you took this cover off, you see there's segments that that crank sensor is looking at, and same thing on the cam sensor up top.
Does it look at the flywheel, or does it look at
Cam and flywheel.
I mean, does it measure the teeth of the flywheel, or does it have
segments. It's
segments
got
on the? Okay.
Yeah, it's got segments.
Because some of them actually look at the teeth on the flywheel, so if you ground the teeth off the flywheel, you're screwed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
one of the problems.
Another
that
good
this
reason not to
car
grind the
also
teeth
has
off your
is
flywheel.
Whenever you start it up, after about 20 seconds, if you don't pump the gas, it'll start like leaking gas, fuel.
Where's it leaking fuel from?
Robert said it was somewhere up here, but I also noticed it like towards the back.
I'll take a look.
It was just like dripping.
It's got the same thing going on here a little bit in the rear with these
solid drip.
bushings
Just
on the
the
back.
drip. Not solid, but in the front is where it was like spewing.
Well, I can see right here, if you look at the top on the fuel pumps up here, you can see these hoses are all cracked. See them all split?
Yeah.
And you can see fuel had been running out of here. Because you can see the stain right here.
Okay.
So these these hoses are definitely gone. Don't want to be yanking on them because they'll split. So that's a problem. You can see it's been blowing back. All down here, it's all cleaned off. It's all washed out. See it? So that's probably part of its problem.
Wonders why he gets 8 miles to the gallon.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
So fuel lines.
Yeah, these fuel lines, the fuel pump.
So that explains that. But what about the front?
The front, now that could be a problem in the engine management, which he probably might want to do. Biggest problem these motors had was the fuel rails. The O-rings on the fuel rails go bad, and fuel starts leaking out the ends, and that can create a fire in this car.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you got all the injectors and everything right there, and the coils. Because you got little short wires that run down to the cylinder heads, but the coils, there's 8 of them on top of the motor. And the injectors spray when it's cold, and when it warms up, it stops leaking. But why it's in the morning when it's fired up, all it has to just get one little spark from one of those coils, and it's up in flames.
Now, do these are not, so they're not the coil over.
No, they're not
the
on
coil
top,
over plug.
they're separate.
They're separate, so you got each
Individual
individual.
coils, yeah. And the problem with this now, it's 40,000 miles. You want to change out the ignition wires on this car.
Okay.
Yeah, no. There's a little bit of steering rack leak here. You can see a little bit of fluid leaking right here, right off the end here. Yeah, right there.
Is that the rack seat? Rack seat.
Seal on the rack, but it's not major, but it is a small little leak there.
Also, the other day when I went to go move the car, I cranked it and I stuck it in gear and it didn't want to move, and it said check gearbox.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. There was an update on that, and I can't remember, but there is a service bulletin on that. You have to get back to me on that, but I can send. Is it who owns the car?
Robert.
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 Yeah, Robert. I can forward him. And I'm pretty sure I remember a TBA on that for that problem with this car. But I have to look. But I do remember reading it one time. So maybe I can send him a bulletin on that.
All right.
It's been so long since I was
Yeah.
with a GM program that years ago when they first came out with this, they had sprag issues. So where you'd you put it in gear and it wouldn't move. You put it in reverse, it would move, but you put it in drive or vice versa. You know, and the sprag in there was going bad. But this thing should have all the updates on it by this time.
Is this service in a dealership or is it strictly independent? You know who's been maintaining it?
Yeah, Mary's been.
Who is it?
Mary.
Oh, okay.
Here.
Okay. Like, maybe he's sending me some info on a car he's got there, and I'm trying to source out some parts for him.
Okay.
So I can
Yeah.
send him the info at the same time. on
Okay,
this.
great.
Yeah.
I'm following.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
'cause-
just acquired this earlier this year, I guess.
Yeah, I
So-
think also on this car there were some fuel pump updates on this car. Yeah, because there was a modification on the back fuel pumps on this.
Okay.
So, but I have to check by VIN and serial number. So I need to have
Okay.
all that information to see if it qualifies for those updates.
Okay.
So,
Great.
There's some problem with that because every time it's a neutral and you go to mesh the gas, it'll like bog down.
log in. Now, the thing I would really be concerned about is the fuel leak on the engine and the back there. But this will catch fire when it's cold, and then like I say, you won't be able to stop because the fuel system's full of fuel and it's going to keep spraying. It keeps feeding the fire.
So you said when it's cold, the fuel injector is sprayed?
It's not actually the injector. It's actually a fuel rail. There's two rails, and there's pipes, flexible hoses that go into the end of the rail that feeds the injectors. So what it does is it's a reservoir for the injector, so it doesn't lose fuel, doesn't cavitate the injector. So it's always got fuel for it all the time. But there's a tube that runs on both sides of the engine that all 4 injectors go into. It's the end O-rings where the pipes go in that spray the fuel, and that's where it sprays out of. So they get hard. Yeah, because the ethanol fuel affects the O-rings and it makes them leak. And then when they leak, it's cold when you first start the car up.
Why is that?
Now,
Because it's not contracted yet. Once it gets hot, it expands.
Okay.
Yeah.
the O-rings that they have now, are they less susceptible to the alcohol, or
Yeah,
they
more
basi-
susceptible to the alcohol. Yeah.
Well, I mean the newer O-rings.
New rings, yeah. I'm assuming that they've
We're
probably,
hoping that they've come
yeah,
to a nitro O-ring.
Exactly. Yeah.
John, is this the same, the basic design as my 97 on the engine?
Yeah, the motor, it's a little bit different on this because this is, Zytec fuel injection.
Yeah, well, that's mine,
Yeah,
it's
that's yours. So
97.
basically the same thing.
Because you were mentioning the
Yeah.
fuel rails and the O-rings.
Yep.
Because
Same
I've
thing.
met that
Same
tow
thing.
truck.
Yeah, this is 6.75.
Yeah.
When you get into the 7.7, which is the Bosch system, totally different engine management system because there's 2 turbos. This only has a single turbo. Yeah.
So is that it for the underside?
No.
Oh.
Actually, I wanted to talk about up here the.
That's exactly right. That's why I had the tow truck.
What I wanted to go see if you can see any of this stuff right here.
Well, they
Looks good. Some of the, well, this. Yeah, that's the old plug. That looks okay. I gotta make sure that was all right. This is really.
Is that like a sensor?
No, that's actually the plug that goes in the transmission. Yeah, that's.
There goes the electronic valve body.
Yeah, exactly. That's a bit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's normal. Down this way.
Is this supposed to be hanging out like
No.
this? Looks
No,
like you
that's
could catch
come out
it
of
on
its
something
bracket.
else. Where's the bracket?
Yeah.
Is that the brake warning?
Well, I'll stick this back in its holder here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now is that the brake pad warning?
Yeah, for the sensor.
So that's fixed.
Well, there's a little thing that's missing here. See, it's right on the cable. It's
Oh, it's
broken
supposed
off.
to-
There's a little ball, and it attaches on the end of here. No, it's missing the piece. Maybe this side will have it on here. This one. Oh no, it's right. It's only on one side. On this part. That's right. Only one brake pad has a sensor on it.
You got one in the front, one in the back. Right?
Yeah. Now on the old cars, the old Spirit and Spur cars that have the rear gas suspension on it, this still has gas springs in the rear suspension, but they're up here on the top. See these balls here?
Oh.
Those are the balls for the rear shocks.
The
And
accumulators,
The
you mean?
accumulators. Well, they're called gas springs.
Oh, right.
And what it does is it's just like it's got a bladder in it, and it's full of gas, but not. What it does is when the flow goes in, it's actually like a shock. It's like kind of. I use an analogy: is you take a beach ball in water and you push it down in water, and it pushes right back up. So it's called the feedback system. So when the fluid gets pushed back into the bladder in those spheres, it's forcing the fluid back out. So you got a spring effect, and that's how the car rides, floats. So when those balls start to float with fluid, you lose nitrogen over time, and it just goes out the vents and the reservoirs, and then the back suspension is what we call hydrostatic locked. So
You have no dampening at all.
yeah, so it's hard. You eventually notice when you hit bumps in the back of the car, it's really
Nothing more than the springs.
yeah, nothing more than the springs, and we call it porpoising. You know,
Just
yeah. And typically the rear end will jack up higher in the back of the car if you really take notice to it. Yeah.
So why are these different than accumulators?
They're
It's the same
they're
technology.
accumulator technology, but just BMW's had them for a long time, and Rolls-Royce had their own system, which is in Rolls-Royce cars, it was a Citroen system. Now it's all the newer cars now. When I say newer, I say from 90, what's it got, a 98 or 99? The last of the 99s are using the Citroen system. They went back to the Citroen valving and everything. It's exactly what it was, not like the old Shadows where they had the grelling, so they changed over on them. But the car originally had a Citroen system in it, and it was changed with grelling to use a different brake fluid. But it would be nice if they used mineral oil in the systems, but the later cars all have mineral oil in it. This is missing see how the shock here, the boot's gone?
Yeah.
See this boot? It's totally gone. Half of it's up here, it's just hanging here. The other of it just disintegrated and fell off.
This one is too.
Yeah. Now you can buy these boots, and I do them myself. I don't know if you've got a speed shop in your area that sells high performance stuff for trucks.
I don't know.
You can buy the truck that stops the stones from chipping the chrome. What you can do is you can buy the boots that go on here, because you can't buy the boots separately from Rolls-Royce. You have to buy the whole strut.
Oh, how tacky.
Yeah. So,
But all you really need is the boot to protect the shaft from abrasion.
Yeah, he's a little bit cracking down here. See, it's
Yeah, in San Antonio, we definitely have lots of high performance
right.
truck.
I would think so.
Yeah.
We have a company in our area called Bentley Speed, off-road and van accessory. That's where we buy a lot of the little stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Same thing over here. It's gone. Yeah. This right, totally gone. And this thing is missing a holder up here. You can see where the pops in, but it's missing off this.
Right.
Some kind of a strap to go to the fender.
Yeah.
No,
there's grounding strap.
It was made on there.
It's a grounding strap.
One over there.
Goes right there. Grounding strap.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Same in here as by comparison.
that paneling.
That's in place. No, it's grounding. It's not.
Grounding?
It's
Okay.
grounding strap.
But this is plastic.
Yeah.
That's why it needs a grounding strap.
Huh.
Because this is metal.
Okay.
That's about it. Other than that, that's about it.
All right.
Yep, we're good to go.
Pulling down.
Going down.
Clear.
Who's clear?
It's real bad when you have the brake card, and then it starts the other way.
John, I have a question on the sport button. The sport button on the shifter. It seems like the sport is engaging in and out, even just hitting little bumps. Beep, 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 beep. You know, it's in and out. Do you think that's just the shifter,
I would
or
say
is
probably
that?
in the ear, yeah, in that shifter assembly. Yeah, I've changed those buttons before.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if you hold the button down, it stops beeping. It doesn't seem like it ever actually shifts in and out of sport. Either that or it's always in sport, one or the other. I don't know.
Okay.
So you think that's that instead of something?
Yeah, I would definitely do button first.
Yeah.
Make sure
Kind of, or when they want
check
to.
it, pull it out and check it. They're not that hard to replace.
Okay.
So
Good. Thanks.
the engine covers, I guess they're all off this.
Yeah. We have one of them, but the other one rubber doesn't.
Yeah, they didn't come with the engine cover. Unfortunately, we have not been able to locate them.
We have one.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay. I think he bought that then, but he couldn't find the other one. Yeah. Because they were both missing when we purchased it.
All right. I'll lean in with you, Chad.
Well, we're just gonna take a look here. The these are actually from the factory when they do modifications. This is what these labels are for. So this has had an update on it. I'm not sure what it is because I don't have my books to see what the number coincides what's been done. But that's what the factory does. Usually what they'll do also, is when they put that sticker on there, they'll put a white paint mark somewhere on something to tell the tech when he looks in the car, he'll know like on the shock tower that's been done.
I've seen that.
So techs will know. You know.
If they go to do another one, will they change this off and put
No, they'll put a number next to it, you know, another label. Yeah. So I'm not sure what was done without looking at my notes. These are the cabin filters in here. These are cabin filters. These need to be replaced, but there's the ones that really cause the damage are under the dash and nobody knows about and they never change them. And they get blocked solid. Passenger and driver side, they're the recirculatory filters, and what it does is it causes the blower motor in the cage to cavitate because it can't get enough air and it speeds up. And when it speeds up, it burns up. And in order to change out that
The whole
blower
dash has
motor,
to come out.
not just the dash, everything to the sheet metal. It totally comes out, the center console, both seats. So when you look
Great
inside the
design.
car, there's nothing. And what's always remaining is the box on the tunnel. And then you have to take the HVAC box out and disassemble it and put the motor in. Now when you do the motor,
You might as well.
always do the blower resistor with it. Because guys just do the blower motor, put it all back together again, and then they take it all back apart because it doesn't work. So always do them both as pairs, you know. Now that's only because of the filters. So if you keep the filters changed out, it's a $40 filter, I think, per side or less than that. And you can save yourself over $6,000–7,000 in repairs. So just for a dirty filter. So, and we'll check these just to see if they're dirty or not. But
are they easily accessible?
yeah, very easy, yeah. Yep.
More so than the motor, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Now you can't see, but under this cover here there's a rail on both sides, and they spray fuel. So one end is blocked and one end isn't. So it allows fuel to go on the one end of there to the end, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think that one's on that end on the back, and this one's on this end on the front. So you just follow the flexible fuel line going up to it, and it's a metal pipe and a flexible line that goes into an aluminum housing, and the O-rings are on the metal pipe that pushes in the aluminum housing, and that's what causes the fuel smell in the morning. Yeah, but then you don't see it or smell it after the car's warmed up. So
Now, are the fuel pressure regulators? Now, is this a is it a returnless system where you don't have the line coming up? You get the pressure line coming up and the line going back.
no, it's got a fuel cooler on it, and it recirculates through the fuel cooler.
Okay.
Yeah, it does still do that.
Okay.
This is a single Garrett turbine on here. You want to check on these things when you take this hose off, filter, you can feel the shaft on the turbine and see if there's any movement on it. So these are usually pretty bulletproof. But with any turbine engine, when you're running it hard, you want to always make sure before you switch it off, let it run and cool down, instead of just switching it off right away. Yeah. These are air pump. It's got an air pump system on it. It's only on for like about not even 2 minutes. It's a clutch system here, just like a clutch on a compressor. You first start in the morning, so it's not running continuously, but it's looking for that, the computer system, when it first starts up.
That's for pollution control?
Yeah, pollution control. Yeah, on the later series cars, it's in the rear of the car on the dry shaft. It's right at the tail end of the transmission, because there's no room in the engine to put it with the twin turbos and everything, so they pump it up from the back end of the car forward. And that's a more sensitive system. They've had problems with those systems from the heat of the engine. The vacuum hoses they use on them deteriorate and create problems. Now, in order to get to that system, you got to pull the transmission out. You can't get to any of the vacuum hoses unless you pull the trans. So it's really involved on later series cars when you have the twin turbo engine in it. So that'll be your Mercedes fuel management system with 2 intercoolers on the top of the motor, and it's all aluminum, you know, on the top. So this is one thing you want to be really careful about. Is right here. See these cracks? This little piece of